an orthopedic medical officer to actually do the full thickness skin graft that you can see in the picture. So here is where you need to know whether you have certain skills or not. Okay, next picture.
Okay.
Yeah, and then later on, I went to Kashmir for an earthquake. And here I show a few pictures, one of me doing a walk round, and the other one is to show the amount of logistics that is involved. So when we talk about humanitarian work, it's not just the pure clinical work. That, I think, to me, is actually the easiest part, the clinical work where you make the decisions and all that. But it is the surrounding problems that it comes with volunteerism, especially if you are not in an established NGO, is the bringing the medication, the consumables, how to transport it. All those things are very important to make sure that the clinical work can be done properly. Next slide. And this was in Philippines during Typhoon Haiyan. And the other thing I want to mention here is that you are going to be working with other volunteers, and some are also salaried staff. So there's a lot of coordination involved. And sometimes when we talk about volunteers, they feel like, oh, okay, I'm just a volunteer. I'm going to do what I want to do. So these are sometimes the difficult thing to when you're on the field. There's some volunteers who refuse to do something, and they say, oh, I'm not being paid for this, so I don't want to do that, so those are the skills that you need to actually get to coordinate and engage everyone together as a team. Next slide. Okay, this one was a wound debridement we did during the Nepal earthquake. Again, to show you how complex it is to actually try and bring a sterile field onto the field. Okay, next. This is in Cox's Bazar. So this was seeing refugees in Bangladesh. Okay, next slide. And this was in Sulawesi in 2018. Again, the coordination just to go to Sulawesi, interaction with local governments and local agencies. These are all very, very big things, which when you talk about humanitarian work, these are actually very important. Next slide. So first, when I became a volunteer, I was just a medical person with clinical expertise, right? But then later on, I became in charge of the logistics of the medication, consumables, equipment. Then, if you want to bring medication to a different country, you need to make sure you have the authorization of the drugs and all this, And then as a doctor, do you have your annual practicing certificate? Is it can that be used in the country that you're going to? All this paperwork. And then I ended up doing a lot of coordination with other NGOs and local government, and then one step higher with UN agencies. And then every time you go on a mission, it's just not seeing patients. You need to make sure that all the patients that you have seen are actually in a database and being reported, because when you are an NGO, you receive funding from the donors. Let's say a donor gives you 100,000 ringgit. So you need to report to the donor, okay, we saw 78 patients who had URTI, diarrhea, this and that, And then you want to get more money for your NGO, then you need to write proposals. So because I'm also a professor in UKM, so writing proposal as a research proposal is not alien to me. So, I can help with that. And also all this attendance at high level meetings. So when you become more and more involved in humanitarian work, you kind of stop doing the basic clinical work and you end up doing all these admin things. Next slide. Okay, so and also every time I went on a mission, I wanted to improve things. So we ended up, or Mercy Malaysia ended up certifying or getting our field hospital to be certified by the World Health Organization. So these are all the big how shall we say names in the humanitarian world. Next slide. Okay, so I just want to say, for those who are really interested in humanitarian work, there is what is known as the cluster. And there are many areas of the cluster which you might want to be involved. You don't actually have to only be involved in health, because, for example, I am involved in health, but as time went by, I was also involved in logistics and also water and sanitation, because health, logistics, and water and sanitation were quite closely related. But then you can actually delve into other areas such as education, nutrition, emergency shelter, and the rest of the cluster, as you can see in the diagram. Next slide. Yes, and this is also very important. You will end up coordinating with other agencies as well. Next slide. Right, next. Yeah, so this is the same thing with regard to the cluster. So these are the technical areas. You don't actually have to be, I mean, you can just have a basic medical degree, but you can end up doing all of this because a lot of it is coordination and project management rather than pure theoretical or clinical work or technical work. Okay, next slide. Next. I also just want to say that in the local context, there is also a big disaster management area. I mean, we know, for example, now the floods in Kelantan, which actually now is much better, but in Johor, we know there's floods as well. So this agency pengurusan bencana negara is a big thing, and as a humanitarian doctor, you may want to be involved in these areas. Next slide. Next. Next slide. This is on the ASEAN side as well. Also, disaster management is a big thing. Next. Yeah, so I think I'm going to my second part of the slideshow because I had heavy or pictures in the first one. So I think from the picture that I've shown you that being a humanitarian doctor is just not the clinical work. That's what I really want to emphasize, is a lot of the admin which goes around that. Okay, next. Right. Okay. So this one I'm just showing pictures in Malaysia. So a lot of packing activities for this is for Banjir in Kelantan, and then flood response where we give non-food items, hygiene kits. Next slide. And then you have to coordinate with the local government, maybe in Kelantan or the district office. Next slide. And actually, when you go on the field, you see the kawasan yang kena banjir. So you need to do the observation and you need to take down data. Next slide. Assessment of the affected people, the needs and the damage impact. Next slide. And then you have to design a relevant program to what to the disaster that you've just seen. Next. And then data. A lot of us, we go on missions, we don't bother with data. This is perhaps the most important part of it. Okay, next slide. And then carrying or running workshops to prevent floods from affecting the community next year. So these are what we call as resilient settlements. Next slide. Because we know every year, confirm ada banjir, is how good is the community able to fend for themselves during the flood. So all these meetings with the local community. Next slide. And this one, where Malaysia did build some, we have a technical group, a bunch of engineers and architects, and they actually built some houses, rumah sementara. Next slide. And we are also into child-friendly space. Okay, next slide. And also water is a big thing as well. Okay, next slide. Right. So let's talk about jobs. So this is the usual advertisement that you will get for humanitarian doctors, call for volunteer. But this is a volunteer. This is not a paid position. Okay, next slide. So when we talk about working, either you work with a local NGO or an international NGO. So Mercy Malaysia, we consider ourselves as an international NGO. But the thing is, your salary will be lower because it is an NGO. Therefore, it is non-profit. So those who want to think about humanitarianism, yeah, it sounds cool. You get to go to Mandalay and Kashmir and all those places, but your salary is going to be lower compared to the market out there. So this is something you need to take into consideration. Next slide. Okay, this is from Emarat. So this is actually a proper medical officer in a clinic in Selayang. So this is actually you working as a GP in a clinic run by Emarat. Mercy Malaysia also has a similar clinic. So this would be the type of payment that you're going to look at, but your job will mostly be a very clinical work as a GP. They may ask you to do some reporting and research proposal and all that, but that may just be a small part of it, because the name of the position is the medical officer. Next slide. Okay, so in Mercy Malaysia, for example, this is our organization chart, and you can see there's the program operations there, and we have the health operation. So within the health operation, we do look for program officers, and they are going to be at a different level than a program officer with a medical degree. Okay, next slide. So for example, this would be a normal project staff in the health department, and this type of work is more with regards to data analysis, communication, coordination as well, but at a lower administrative level. And probably the pay here is about 4,000 to 5,000 ringgit. Next slide. However, if you are in as a doctor, then you are going to be given a higher salary, because you will be expected to do more complicated work or more clinical work in a way. So normally starting salary is still 7,000. If you end up being the head of the health unit, which unit only has 4 or 5 people, maybe 10,000, maybe that. But that's it. So mostly you'll be involved in meetings, coordination, project write-ups, proposal writing, and you really need good writing skills. A lot of people think that you can just get away with your clinical skills. No, you can't. As a humanitarian doctor, if you are going to be on a higher level, you need to be able to write. Next slide. Okay, then you might say, okay, Mercy Malaysia is too small for me, or any local NGO. I'm going to go for the international level. And these are usually based in Western countries or affiliated with the United Nations. So the good thing is your salary will be in US dollars. Your working environment is very international, but sometimes or most of the time it's contract based. So once the program is over, the job is also over. So like 1 or 2 years contract, and you may require a lot of traveling, moving from Geneva to West Africa or Palestine or Indonesia or Myanmar. A lot of traveling. Next slide. So for example, this is MSF, which is an international NGO in Afghanistan. So as you can see, they were hiring medical doctors and project medical assistant, which is specific that they want a medical doctor. Okay, next slide. This is a more I would say more professional position, or more lucrative position, perhaps with WHO. So as you can see, okay, next slide. It's in Algeria, so, but of course, remuneration wise, you are paid in US dollars. That's about 10,000 US dollars per month, but you'll be staying in the camps in Algeria, or somewhere, a hotel in Algeria. And usually for WHO, they do want masters in public health, but that is not essential. Usually just a basic medical degree will be fine, but you need that working experience in coordination in the humanitarian sector. Next slide. And this would be the type of deliverables that you'd be expected to come up with. Again, like I say, a lot of budgeting, a lot of work plans, a lot of preparation and organization, coordination, monitoring. These are all the type of work that if you're going to go higher in the humanitarian sector, this is what you would be required to do. Okay, next slide. I think, yep. So I think that's all I want to mention. So you can contact me by email, or there's my phone number. And if you're not sure about humanitarian work, you go in as a volunteer first, and you see whether do you like this or not. In summary, I would like to say, yes, I do like humanitarian work, but career-wise, I think I am too far into my clinical career as a hand surgeon to actually go and do humanitarian work full time. But at one point in my life, I did think about it. But it actually entailed a lot of traveling, and therefore for me, I decided to be with my family in KL, and to be based here. But I would actually, if I was given, say, a sabbatical for 6 months to spend in somewhere like Morocco or Algeria, yeah, I think I would want to do something like that. To go out for 3-4 months to really be involved in humanitarian work. Okay, I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Shamila, for the very, very insightful sharing. I can imagine the work does not just give what we say in terms of motivation and also financial needs, but also a lot of satisfaction, and also orang kata apa, keberkatan lah, when we actually help people who really those in needs. So it's really, really, really enlightening. Thank you very much, Prof. Shalima. So we will be, I'm sure a lot of questions will be coming for all the speakers. We'll be holding all the question first, and inshallah we'll be opening the question at 11 o'clock. So without further delay, I would like to invite Dr. Jayanti Viswanathan for next speaking, next session, sharing session. I just need to stand by her slides, okay? Just please, Dr. Jayanti, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Salami. Hi, everyone. So I'm Jayanti, and very happy to join you all today to talk a little bit about my experience over my career. If I could have the first slide first.
Okay.
So I'm currently the Deputy Director of Office of Value-Based Healthcare in Singapore General Hospital, and happy to speak more about it in further slides. But I wanted to tell you about my career path. And as you can see from this slide, it's taken many turns. Right, I've initially started, as Dr. Salami said, I was a houseman here in Melaka GH many, many, many years ago, my first posting, and then as a medical officer in Muar Hospital. After that, I left government service after my compulsory service, and I went to private hospitals where I worked with Makota Medical Center when they started up very early on. And then later on, I joined Columbia Asia Hospital in Seremban, which was also a startup at that time when I joined. And in both these experiences, I felt I learned so much more because I got to learn beyond my clinical just knowledge of managing patients and treating patients, which is very, very important. But I was given opportunity to also learn administratively how hospitals are set up and how they're managed. I got to be the medical officer in charge. I got to work with the management committee in both the private hospitals, one a very large private hospital and one a smaller, different version hospital. But both taught me very many valuable lessons about what needs to happen for hospitals to run, the resourcing, the budgeting, the administrative part of the work, as Dr. Prof. Sharima was saying just now as well, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that become very, very important to make something work out front. Subsequently, I was offered a role. Sorry, if I could stay on that slide, please. Yeah. Subsequently, I was offered a role in pharmaceuticals. So initially, I was very skeptical. I was like, oh my God, what's this all about? It's about selling drugs or, just talking about things to do with products. And I wasn't very sure this is something I wanted to do. But then Roche offered me a role to be a medical manager in the oncology and hematology portfolio. And it opened up a new world for me because I learned about how cancer patients, what they needed to go through, how they felt when they had to undergo treatments or make very difficult decisions about what sorts of treatments to choose. It also gave me the opportunity to work on targeted therapies and biomolecular targets and things like that, which I'd never been exposed to before. But it was a great learning curve. The bread and butter in pharmaceutical company is, of course, to work with our sales and medical marketing company counterparts to build on products that pharmaceutical companies will launch. But being in the medical role in a pharmaceutical company, I had also this ability to work alongside clinicians and healthcare professionals to build programs that helped patients and improve their outcomes. And that to me is where I learned this is really what I want to do. This is where I want to make the difference. And in my career, I've been given a lot of opportunities to work on such programs with healthcare professionals. And that's what's really been my key driver. After Roche, I was given an opportunity to move into a regional role, which was in Sanofi, based in Singapore, and it covered 16 countries, all the way from Russia, all the way to China, Japan, Australia. So you move from a single-minded country perspective to suddenly you have to think across 16 countries, 16 cultures, 16 healthcare systems, and how people in different countries and hospitals work and the issues and concerns and problems that they have. That's a lot of opportunity to be able to step forward and work with people to make a difference. And that's exactly what I was able to do. You'll see later some of the achievements that I've had, and I've been extremely lucky to work with amazing people that have taught me a lot. I went on to work with AstraZeneca, both in the region and in cluster levels, and I was a medical director in Malaysia for quite some time. And within that time that I was back in Malaysia, we were able to work with the public and private hospitals and the societies in Malaysia to run a lot of programs that still run till today, long after I've left the company. And in my last role in Novartis, in Pharma, I was able to actually work on implementation science as well as partnerships with the healthcare system. Again, something that's very close to my heart, something I really am very passionate about. And that's what I love doing. So, and now this time I got to do it across a much larger region, which was Asia Pacific, Middle East, and Africa. It's amazing what you can learn from people from different countries and different perspectives on the ground, right? And it's amazing how rich it makes your life as well. I currently, from April of last year, took on the role as Deputy Director for the Office of Value-Based Healthcare at the Singapore General Hospital. And this, again, is giving me a whole new perspective. It's a public hospital, the largest public hospital in Singapore. And value-based healthcare is a very key factor of what we do from an administrative perspective. So I work in administration. I work very closely with clinicians and healthcare professionals in the hospital, as well as across the continuum of care across Singapore, from community hospitals into polyclinics, etc. And this is again carrying on legacy and work that I've done in the pharmaceutical world that I've learned in terms of working with different stakeholders, working across different teams, and building with people. And so, I love what I do today. I'm learning a whole lot different things from where I am today. And that's what I'm really enjoying at the moment. So you can see being a medical doctor doesn't stop with just clinical practice. And Prof. Shalima mentioned this from her example as well. You can go wherever you want to go. It's where your motivation takes you, where purpose takes you, and what drives you and gives you that great happiness of, I know what I'm doing and I know where I want to get to. Next slide, please. So some achievements across the line, right? So the bread and butter in a pharmaceutical world is you get to do clinical trials. You get to do them at a country level or at regional level. And many of you working in hospitals, you could have been involved with clinical trials supported by pharma companies. And that's where you learn how to manage data. Learn how to manage timelines, project management. You learn how to manage different teams of people in different factors. Sometimes people don't report to you directly, but you need to be able to influence them. You need to be able to work with them and bring them along on your journey as well. I've had great, opportunities to work, as I mentioned, with healthcare professionals. We ran training programs for doctors across regions. The VTA program is one of them that ran for many, many, many years and impacted a lot of hospitals around Asia Pac. But I've also had the chance of working with the American Heart Association, the AHA. Together, we brought them to Asia. They helped us build up 30 heart failure clinics in Asia. And together with a lot of country teams, we built up 450 heart failure clinics around Asia. I've had also the opportunity to build teams and mentor people, and this is what I love to do. I love developing people. So I've had the chance to help people learn and grow and develop within their fields and to go on to take on bigger and larger roles in their organizations. So I want to tell you that it's not just one dimensional, right? You start off at one place, but the impact and the things that you can do across your career is wideful. It's so many things that can happen. It's up to you. It's up to you to decide where your motivation lies and what you'd like to do and what's the legacy you want to leave behind at the end of the day. So I've been pretty lucky, and I wish you all the same kind of luck to be able to get these sort of opportunities and to work with the right kind of people to build these programs. When you see patients getting to improved outcomes because of something that you put in place on the ground with a team of people, it's an amazing feeling. And one of the key things we learned in all these programs is data is currency. So you need to track what you do. You need to see that what you're doing is impactful and that it's making a difference. But when you look at that data and you see how well patients are doing, how well their outcomes are improving, nothing takes that away from you. It's an amazing, amazing feeling to have. Next slide, please. So what have I learned in my career? Every new role that you're going to get, it is an opportunity. So to learn, use it, grow it, okay? Sometimes you need to take time to understand different perspectives, but it helps solve problems. And I'll give you an example. When I was medical director in Malaysia, we decided that, for diabetic patients in Malaysia, a large proportion of them go to polyclinics. But at that time in Malaysia, polyclinics had very limited therapies. And we, of course, in Pharma, we thought, wow, we had the solutions. But when we went to the head of polyclinic, when we went to the people in the polyclinics and we spoke to them, we realized their perspective is so different. They see over 300 patients a day in a polyclinic. They have limited staff, limited budget, limited time. And within that space and time, we were asking them to focus and manage diabetic patients the best way possible. We were just adding on to the problems. We weren't actually solving it. So they gave us a list of caveats and they said, you come back with a solution that meets our caveats. And I'm so glad they did that because it made us think out of the box. It made us go back and look again at the polyclinics and look and see what are the opportunities. And we found the opportunities actually in patients who were at the polyclinics. The patients said, we hang around the polyclinics because it's like a kampong. So most of the days when we're not doing anything, we're here at the polyclinic. And so we asked the patients, if we teach you to teach other patients about diabetes and why they need to come for treatment, why they need to stay on treatment, what to look out for, can you help us? And they were so fantastically overjoyed. They stepped up. They did such a great job. It became a program within the polyclinics in Malaysia, but it started from the fact that we had to understand different perspectives, and it solved the problem. And it took teamwork, unexpected teamwork, but teamwork nonetheless. Always understand what motivates you, because if you understand what motivates you, no matter how well you do, you will do well in your career. Don't do it because your friend's doing well. Do it because it makes you feel good. And always remember, you are never alone. Most of the things, everything that I've done in my career has always been done in teams, whether they reported directly to me or whether they were different teams from different partners or different stakeholders. But it's always better done in teams because the impact is so much bigger. And very often, don't be afraid. You don't have to know everything. And it's okay because lots of people around you will have answers and they will have solutions as well. Next slide, please. So I just want to leave you all with a couple of recommendations, right? Be very open-minded. You never know what's around the corner. You never know when an opportunity is going to come to you. If you're interested in working in pharma, very often you will see advertisements in the papers. You will see advertisements in many other places. If you look internationally, etc. If you're interested, sign up for it. Learn. Be open-minded. Work with passion. You never know until you try. You can try something. Maybe it won't work. That's totally fine because you're going to fail fast. You're going to learn fast. And that's absolutely all right. Remember to have fun always. That's what's going to keep you going. And always, as I keep saying, teamwork is always best. So remember your team players. Remember the people you work with. Remember the people that come with you along on this journey. And I wish you all the very, very best. If ever you need any pointers on joining pharma or getting into hospital administration, I'm very happy to connect and answer questions as well. So thanks very much for listening to me. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Thank you very much, Dr. Jayanti. Very, very inspiring. And I couldn't agree more with most, especially about aspects of teamwork and data science, especially because I'm also a statistician and data scientist. So I can relate that very well. And really speaks volume about your credential, why you are such a good leader to your in terms of positioning yourself as a good administrator and leader in a tertiary hospital. Thank you very much for that sharing, Dr. Jayanti. We'll come back with more question, I believe, at 11 o'clock. And inshallah, now we'll be proceeding with the next speaker, Dr. Raj. Okay. Dr. Raj is giving me his slide, so give me some
Yes,
time to
sure.
actually download the slide because
But then I can start with the intro, I guess,
yeah, yes,
in
please,
the
yes,
interest of time.
please,
Okay,
yes, you can
so
take the floor, please, Dr. Raj.
sure. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Salami. So, thank you very much for the kind introduction. And I really need to say, first of all, thank you very much, Prof. Dr. Shalima, for your service. It's very inspirational. I think all of us, right, we always have niyat, as I said, we feel that we want to do something for charity, but only very few people actually step up to do it. So it's very inspirational. God bless you. Thank you. May you be rewarded for your service, and also to Dr. Jayanti for your contributions to healthcare. Especially with regards to value-based healthcare, that's actually something which is actually Malaysia is still dragging our feet with that, with regards to certain concepts with that Professor Michael Porter actually first espoused a long time ago. But thank you for, thank you for building it up to the point where you actually have a value-based healthcare department in Singapore. I am so impressed that we actually have that. That's another example for our country, lah. So anyway, just a bit about my style today. It's going to be informal, mix of BM and English, and wherever and as far as possible, I'll be using real world examples and from my life and also from people around me. I'm not going to disparage anybody, so I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to give you the details, the incidences, especially when I talk about ethics, which is my last slide. But the other thing is, I can't give you the ultimate secret of success. I can't really tell you what will work for you. Like what has been very honestly shared here by the other speakers, right? a lot of it is luck, lah, guys. I also ended up where I did because of luck. But as you know how that saying goes, luck is where preparation meets opportunity, or that very famous Latin saying, "Audentis fortuna juvat," which is fortune favors the bold, and there's another one that says fortune favors the prepared mind. So basically, you have to do your groundwork. Like you have to learn, and when you're prepared, the door will open and you'll be ready to walk through the door, lah. Okay. I'll also share what doesn't work for a lot of people because if it didn't work for me, probably it's not going to work for you, lah. So the first thing, because we're talking about corporate medicine and corporate medical career, what can you guys actually do if you are not fancying a career of mainstream corporate medicine, seeing patients in the clinic? What do you guys want to do? Well, firstly, there's the third party administrator, TPAs. Okay, what TPAs are in Malaysia, basically, they're also called MCOs, managed care organizations. What they basically are, they are companies that administer the health benefits. So let's say you have a company like XYZ. I'm not going to mention names, huh? There's a company that has medical benefits. Their staff can go to the hospital and get appendicitis and all treatment and whatnot. But they want to know if the bill is inflated or if the bill is rational. So these companies, they don't have the expertise to go and decide, is this bill patut ke tidak? Sebab dia punya harga, dia tak tahu. Sebab dia orang HR. So dia outsource kepada company lain yang tengok, orang ni masuk sebab appendicitis, pembedahan appendix. Tapi bill masuk 3 hari, tapi bill sampai 100,000. Ini tak boleh jadi ni. So they will siasat. And then from then, you can tell, okay, there's a bit of what we call over servicing or inflation of the bill. So this is basically a cost containment service that these companies provide. They need medical doctors to actually go through the bill and actually engage with them. So examples of this company are PM Care, Media Express, ASP, MyCare, and Complement. Right now we have about 40 in Malaysia, and it's actually growing. So there's an opportunity there. I was a medical director in PM Care before, and I've actually worked in ASP before, quite a number of years ago, lah. The other one is insurance. I'm actually with insurer right now, but I'm not going to speak much about my own insurer now because in the course of giving this talk, one of the conditions was I cannot really speak on the behalf of my insurer. So please do not take what I say on recruiting practices and all of it, but I'm just talking about the industry as a whole. Okay? So, but insurance, definitely there is a very, very clear role for medical personnel for claims assessment because it's the same thing. If a medical claim comes in, we want to go and assess the claim to make sure, is it an inflated claim? Is it a just claim? Because there's a lot of medical fraud. There's a concept in insurance and in the TPA, in medical healthcare called FWA, fraud, wastage, and abuse. And this is the thing that we want to target because medical costs, FWA actually is what is driving up medical costs to a large extent. Our medical inflation in Malaysia is hovering from 12 to 15% per annum. Our economic inflation is anywhere from 3.6 to 3.8, depending on the source. So you ask yourself, why is there a discrepancy between medical inflation and economic inflation? That's another whole topic. You probably could talk for 5 hours about that. Another thing is in-house medical services. You may not want to see a patient in the clinic. You may not want to see a patient in the hospital. You can get a job with a company that has an in-house clinic, like a factory or a port, okay? And you can work there. And the other one is wellness companies. Wellness is actually one of maybe you could say the fastest growing business in Malaysia right now. A couple of big names like Health Junction, Naluri, they actually need medical doctors to actually advise them on wellness programs and projects for their corporate clients. So, like you can actually, there's definitely an avenue there of employment and occupational health advisory. But okay, this is actually, especially if you get a job, ONG is oil and gas, not obstetrics and gynecology, please. Oil and gas, like the big names, like in Malaysia, of course, it's Petronas, Exxon, BHP, Petron, whatnot. If you're fortunate and lucky enough to actually get a job with them, I would say the corporate, the financial benefits are very good. But at the end of the day, when you look for a career, corporate career, I know people might say it's just about money, but at the end of the day, it really is not. You have to be passionate about what you're doing, because if you're just doing it for the money, it's like being a doctor. If you're really just doing it for the money at the end of the day, you're going to get burnt out. And which is why you have to love what you do. You really have to love what you do. Lah. I'll give you some examples, real life examples of how hard people in corporate actually work to actually dispel some myths and fantasies. Lah. Okay. And the last one is pharma companies, but Dr. JMT has very ably covered this, so we don't have to talk about that. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so now one of the things that is needed if you want to transition into a career in corporate medicine, I personally feel is actual working experience. And why this is there is because the basis of transitioning is the transfer and application of marketable and relevant medical skills. This means that, okay, give an example. If you, let's say you're a CEO and you need to hire a legal advisor, a lawyer, would you hire a guy who's just fresh out of medical school, or sorry, fresh out of law school, who's never practiced, who's never actually persecuted anybody in the court of law? Similarly, if you need to hire an accountant or a tax consultant, would you hire somebody that's just freshly graduated out of university, or would you look for the lawyer who's actually fought and won cases in court? Would you look for the tax consultant that has actually worked on the field and actually has experience in addition to paper qualifications? And that's the way actually it works. I'm not, and this is the thing that we're actually seeing. There's a trend now, right, where a lot of people, you just finish your basic medical degree and then you just pack up your bags and you just leave and then you try to go into corporate medicine. The problem is, I would advise you not to do that now because of a couple of reasons. Maybe in the years past it was okay, but if you look, Dr. Jayanti is a very good example. She has actual clinical experience. So do I. I'm actually a bona fide registered medical specialist with the NSR. I am a FMS, I'm an OHD as well. And all of this actually is very relevant because when you're looking your contribution to corporate as because you're a medical consultant with who is supposed to provide medical benefit, a medical input, it must be from some real world experience. And that's actually very, very important in the future when you're doing medical cost containment. So, those two careers I spoke about, if you're interested in a TPA based career or an insurance based career, a lot of what you're doing is calling up very experienced specialists, maybe with letters behind their names, MRCS, FRCS, and whatnot, and in front of their name, Dato times three. And when you call them up and tell them that you are taking money out of their pocket, they are not happy. I cannot tell you how many times that I've been threatened with legal action. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to report. But always what happens is after they sit down and talk to you, because you have real life experience and you know how to go and tell them the basis of cost containment, it's actually okay. I've actually done cases when I was in PM care. The first time another doctor with no clinical experience contacted a specialist, he was very angry. He actually called the doctor stupid. And she told me about it, and I said, okay, let's actually put him on speaker and let's speak to him. And she said, there's a complete different cara dia cakap dengan you doctor dengan cara dia cakap dengan saya lain. And it's not just because I told him, well, I'm Dr. Raj so and so, I'm a medical specialist. No, it's just that when you approach the doctor, right, if you have actual clinical experience, when the words come out of your mouth, right, they know that you are not just talking from the textbook. You've actually seen stuff. Like when we hear Prof. Shalima speaks, right? Even if she didn't say anything, she didn't have to show those photos, but the weight of your experience carries in your voice. This is actually a very intangible thing, but it's substantial. You can the phrase that they want to use it is that you can smell BS. If somebody doesn't know what they're talking about, you can smell it. So you need to walk the walk and you need to know how to walk in the first place. You need to talk the talk and walk the walk. Most importantly, you need to know how to do it. So it's very important to get working experience. I strongly advise everybody at least to finish your housemanship. Please do that. The other thing, if you can see it through, do at least your DFM. The DFM is a diploma in family medicine, or at least do your occupational health. Okay, do something relevant, do additional qualification in medicine, which will help you if you're thinking about going into a field where you are actually doing medical cost containment, because that actually does make a difference. Lah. Okay, MRCS is a surgical membership exam, FRECGP is the one I did, and MRCP is your physician exam. Lah. I would say knowledge and upskilling is essential nowadays. Why? Because I think you all are well aware of this, how many doctors are coming out every year. It's the field is very competitive. It's not like it was 15 years ago. Everybody needs to have your USP. And if you're thinking about going to corporate medicine, this is some of the lingos that you need to know. USP, NPV, net present value, EBITDA, EBIT, but we'll be talking about it afterwards. But I'll explain to you what a USP is, but everybody needs to have your own USP. Okay, so next slide, please. All right. Now, expectations of corporate life, reality versus fantasy. When I worked in PM Care, my CEO every day will go back 11:30. On Saturday and Sunday, also he'll come to work. I thought first, okay, this guy is a rarity. Like, he's a workaholic. And I thought this guy is working as hard as the specialist I was accustomed to in the hospital. He's like, my prof, so and so. Every day coming back so late. I thought, okay, well, this is not representative of everybody. Until I started looking at all the other supervisors in PM Care, the claims, the guys in charge of the departments, they also tended to go back quite late. And then when I moved over to where I am now, I would think right now, every day I go back home at about 8:30, about 8 o'clock plus. Couple of reasons. One is work finishes at 8, 5:45. I don't want to leave at that point because I'll get stuck in a traffic jam. It's wasted time. So I leave minimum also, I leave at 7 o'clock. So then it takes about 45 minutes to go home. But even if I didn't, I normally what I do is I spend my time. You have to go through your emails, your plans, your corporate structure, what are the projects you want to do. All of this stuff takes time. Working in corporate, the vibe is different from working in a clinical setting. Give an example, when I was seeing patients in ASP, we had like 60 patients a day. It was so busy that I had to postpone time going to the toilet. Doctors, it may be members of the audience who have been doctors, who are doctors, or maybe there are some medical students here who are actually going to work in very busy clinics. It's going to be like that. Kalau klinik tu penuh dengan patient, you orang kena tahan kencing. It happens. And I have to do it so many times. But in corporate, it's not like that, because you don't have things which are berderet, but there's a lot on your plate. But the time sensitivity of things, your deadline normally is not like if it's in 5 minutes, you don't get things on your plate that have to be done in 5 minutes. It's not like a patient comes in, your patient needs to be seen within 5 minutes. You need to clear the patient. You have a project which is due maybe in a month, there's a time frame. So you can actually plan your time out. If you want to take a 1 hour lunch break, if your boss is okay with it, you can, but you have to go back home late lah. So what I do here is because I didn't want to like tell myself I don't want to go and tell myself I have to postpone going to the toilet. So I told myself, look, I want to be able to have an easy lunch, but at the same time, I want to finish work on time. So I divide my day into 24-hour blocks. And personally, everybody's different, but I don't bring work home. So if I have to work at the office until 1 o'clock in the morning, which I have, I will do it. I don't bring work home. But everybody's different. But the reality of corporate life is like this. It is actually quite difficult. And everybody actually you have to work hard. You will not just get up there by accident. Every CEO who is actually sitting up there actually is a very, very hard worker. All right. And the other thing is, when I actually came here, I thought, well, I'm actually hot stuff because I actually work very hard. You leave work at 8 p.m., the car park is full of, when I say full, at least on one level, the car park, there are at least four BMWs or Mercedes Benzes. Take your pick, either one of those two, but they total about four. And of course, the other cars as well. Once again, it's not about money, but it shows you that those people that are going back late are the ones who are in higher supervisory level posts and above. So this is the thing that you guys must. I need to manage expectations here because a lot of people they contact me and say, Raj, I want to go into corporate. I want a 9 to 5 job. And tell them, bro, it's not like that. Okay. So now next one, please. So unique USP is unique selling proposition. You must be unique, you must be different. Okay. So now next one. Okay, so what do you need? Basically, you need to upskill yourself with knowledge, and I would say read, because we're going to corporate. What's actually most important is right now you have medical knowledge, but your corporate knowledge, economic knowledge is next to nil because it's not part of the syllabus. What I would advise is first, like what Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger was Warren Buffett's partner. They consistently say the thing that sets successful people apart from non-successful people is how much they read in one day. And Warren Buffett reads on average about 500 pages a day. So you have to learn how to do that. And one of the things that you have to do, I'm not ashamed, you have to start reading books, like triple your reading speed. I don't know if you can see this, but basically that's it. Triple your reading speed. The Intelligent Investor by Warren Buffett, teacher Benjamin Graham. Other books like Liar's Poker by the guy that wrote um, the screenplay for The Big Short. I mean, these are good introductions to what corporate life is actually about. It is actually very, very different from mainstream medicine, but it's an eye opener. As Dr. Jayanti also said, you got to learn. Now, the other thing that I feel is the best substitute for experience actually is book knowledge, because you can learn from other people's mistakes. So do an MBA as fast as you can. An MBA is expensive, so you have to save up the money, but I'm telling you, it's a worthwhile experience. And please do that. Okay. And also upskilling to your related field. If you're planning to go into insurance, please do some insurance certifications. If you're planning to go into, like OHD, make sure you do your OHD certifications. There's so many, but upskilling is important. You have to set yourself apart. And I think that's the last slide, right? Salami? Right. Okay. Now, the last thing which I want to speak about is just ethics. And I don't really have a slide for this because I don't want to put it in black and white. But there have been experiences in my life where people will tell you to do things which you know are wrong. Please stand up for your rights. And how you know, for me, the simple acid test, when you know something is wrong, or something can be legal and ethical, how you know something is wrong is when you cannot stand on a public stage and declare to everybody that you have done this. If ever you feel in life tomorrow, when you're in the corporate setting or clinical medicine, if you feel that somebody's something is going on, and I cannot publicly declare to the whole world or to your God, this is what you've done, it's wrong. Okay, now something might be ethical, it may not be legal. Something might be legal and it may not be ethical, but what's important is you have to make sure these two things are actually done. All right. And that's actually my closing message. I wanted to give you some examples from my life, but maybe I don't want to run over time. Maybe later we can talk about that, lah. But ethics is very important, guys. We've had so many cases, Lehman Brothers, WorldCom, Enron, the mortgage-backed security scandal, in the US, the financial crash. If everybody just had ethics, this would not happen. 1MDB, I don't want to get political here, but actually a real player was the investment bank in the US. They could have actually stopped it. So anyway, guys, that's actually important. Sorry, my talk was a bit more prescriptive on what to do. I mean, all of this stuff actually has worked for me. So it's just about working hard and hoping that preparation meets opportunity. When that door opens, you have to be able to walk through it. If you don't have the strength to walk through that door, you don't have the ability to walk through it, you're not going to be able to do it. All right. Okay. I'm done.
All right, fantastic. Great, Dr. Raj. It's really, 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 I would say, enlightening, and I think it's very, very close to many in terms of genuine tips, and also very, orang kata apa? That's as you mentioned, people can tell whether you're speaking from genuine clinical experience, kan?
I
Yeah.
like apa? I
So
like the one. You can smell the bullshit, right? I smell.
I didn't want to say bullshit, but yes, your radar, and that's the thing, that dot like what Prof has said, senior specialists, if you try to goreng them now, like masa kita buat grand round, kalau kita buat grand round dengan Prof, kalau kita cuba temberang Prof, memang mati lah, sembelih. So, so you just imagine your prof yang garang-garang sekarang sudah jadi consultant. You think he'll be yeah, he's nice to the patient. If you go and tell him crap, memang kena sembelih lah, bos.
okay, that's very good, very good. And
Sure.
saya punya kamera tak boleh nak on, tak tahu kenapa. Dia kata my camera just doesn't get, tak tahu, it cannot get started. So I just have my voice je lah. So now I'm opening the floor to ask any question to any of our esteemed speakers. About any of the question you want to ask. You may either ask directly or you may actually post in the chat box so that we can read it for you. Okay. Anyone from the floor can start asking question. Ke yang klik daripada team kita memes ada dia orang boleh tanya direct ke platform ni?
They can.
They can. Okay. So participant you may actually ask directly or you can hands up I guess ataupun post. Probably just to get this ball rolling kot. I start tanya tadi soalan I nak tanya Prof. Shalimah daripada her experience. How do you get from daripada your official training in medicine? How do you get involved into humanitarian work? What happened? How do you get involved from doing, from medical training? Suddenly you end up involved with humanitarian work. How does it happen?
Okay, so first it's just as a volunteer activity. So, there's a announcement asking for volunteers to help people in rural Sabah. So that was how I started first. And I thought, oh, okay, exciting. Never been to Sabah, and I also want to help the people in the rural part of Sabah. So that's how I started going there. And then when you go there, then you realize, oh, Masjid Malaysia should have a database. Masjid Malaysia should, why are the medications all tonggang langgang, the ubat, the farm, you just carry a box of medication, everything is stuffed in there, you don't know what ubat is there, and then when you arrive in the kampung, you have to take all the ubat out and then you have to susun all the ubat, so I'm like, shouldn't it be more organized? We should have a special bag where you can slot all the medication in. Then when you arrive in the kampung, you just open the bag, everything is ready. So that's how I started initially, just as a normal volunteer, and I want to improve the system. So then I keep going for more and more missions, and then try and improving the system, and that's how I got in there. I mean, it's not to say I'm volunteering every weekend. I think a lot of people have the wrong idea. It's once in 6 months, maybe. So in a year, I would go for 1 week to Sabah and maybe another week to the orang asli in Belum in Perak. And then after that, I progressed to going to overseas mission. So you need to have that basic mission in Malaysia first. A lot of people think, oh, I want to do humanitarian work. I terus nak pergi Afghanistan ke Pakistan. You can't. You need to have that basic first. You need to be, just to go to PPRT in Bukit Jalil, you just go to the PPRT is Project Perumahan Rakyat Termiskin. You just go there and you have a feel of how it is to see 200 patients in 3 hours, and how hot it is, and all that, and tak cukup ubat, and then you don't have facilities to take blood, to do x-ray and all that. So you get that basic experience first, then only you can go overseas. And even if you want to go overseas, it depends on what your skill is. I mean, for now, even if you ask me to go as an orthopedic surgeon to somewhere like Iraq or Gaza, I will be a bit hesitant because the facility there is not the same as what we have here in Malaysia. Over there's no image intensifier. Maybe the external fixator is a different type which you're not used to. So you really need to be very experienced to be able to do all that. So you have to be a good doctor first, a good clinician to be able to work in an area with less facilities. So that's how I started lah. So sekarang macam every month, every week, every other month I'm with Mercy Malaysia doing something. Not necessarily clinical work, but a lot more of admin, coordination and high level meetings.
So, have you ever, like, even at this stage, have you ever questioned yourself? Kata, apa salah aku buat kerja ni, usahkan diri sendiri ni. Have you ever questioned yourself? And if it does, how do you keep going?
Yeah, sometimes I do, especially if I'm organizing, say a basic mission training new volunteers to come, and like, oh, why am I putting myself through all this stress, But at the end of the day, I think that we Malaysians we are so lucky to have everything compared to like Indonesia just next door. They have earthquake, they have tsunamis, they have typhoon, all sorts. We have everything. And no matter how bad we think we are, we've got it. I mean, if you're sick, the government can just sort you out. You just go to any clinic kesihatan, you bayar RM5, you're sorted out. And if you have a motor vehicle accident, you are immediately brought to any GHKL, HKL, whatever, HUKM, terus pergi ICU, everything government it covers.
Hmm.
I mean, of course, I have Raj there on the insurance side, but they going to charge you 100,000
Yelah.
ringgit.
Yelah.
No, no, we don't charge here. The doctors, the doctor in private charges. We try to
Okay.
keep the cost
Yeah,
down.
we good the person from the other side.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, in Malaysia, we're very lucky. Our health
Yeah.
system is actually one of the best in the world. I mean, people don't realize that, but we are the best. You want to see a hand surgeon, you can get to see me at least within 3 months. If you are
Yeah,
in the UK, it'll take you 3 years to see a hand
yeah.
surgeon in the
Mm,
UK.
Yeah,
It
a lot of
really
things.
is, guys. I really, like speaking as somebody from the other side, the insurer side, I'm telling you, Malaysia's health system is really pretty damn good. I would have to say that. Like the
Mm.
NHS in the UK is exactly like
Mm.
what Prof said. Patients have died. Patients that need to go for bypass mati sebab sempat nak pergi pembedahan
Yeah.
sebelum boleh
Mm,
jumpa doktor.
mm, mm.
It happens.
Wow, so tu dia banyak a lot of things untuk bersyukur ni. Kita punya.
Exactly.
So talking about since Dr. Raj has speaking about daripada on the other side of perspective funding kan. So ada question daripada one of the audience lah, one of our member juga ni, Dr. Efat. Is it difficult to decide to go out of the mainstream medical field since you are apa nama? If Dr. Raj, if you want to share some of your insight, how difficult it is?
Okay, in my case, what happened was, okay, I'm just gonna talk about my journey, how I ended up here,
Mm.
like what Dr. JNT shared. I think both of us ended up here, by luck. We are very lucky. So when we say we are lucky, we're not being humbled. Okay, I completed my FRECGP, so I was already a NSR gazetted FMS. I was thinking, okay, I can go to Australia or I can stay on here. But then I thought, okay, I completed my occupational health doctor, and I was actually very, very inspired by Dr. I forgot his name already now, but he's actually the country advisor for for Exxon, sorry. Very nice guy. He's an endocrinologist and also a MFOM, occupational health specialist, bukan OHD. Saya ni OHD yang biasa, Marhin punya OHD je, berambak je OHD. Macam I, tapi he is a specialist. So I thought, hey, this is actually something which is inspirational because I want to take my career to the next step. So I
Mm.
joined Clinic Mediviron because Dr. Lim Heng Wat has a very, very established Mediviron occupational health practice. Tapi masa tu COVID melanda. So patient
Mm.
daripada 150 patient satu hari, klinik tu turun kepada satu ataupun dua. Gaji saya pun kena potong. 50% satu bulan. Lepas tu, things
Um,
actually were going quite bad. So Dato' Lim was very fair. He told us, guys, if you have a chance to find work elsewhere, go and do it because I probably have to close down my clinic. So my clinic
uh,
eventually was closed down. And my friend at that point said, hey Raj, PMK is looking for a medical director. So I masuk dengan idea just untuk tampung sara hidup saya untuk sementara one COVID subsides and then I will
mm,
enter back and then I will do it, but somehow I've stayed on here, and this has become my new career now. As you can see, I've done my Sharia certificate and I've done my insurance papers. So it goes back to what Dr. Jayanti said. When you're in the field, you must embrace it. And that is what a professional does. Like you don't go into this field and you just like be an amateur. So your question first, how do you transition? I would say if your niyat is to do it, I would say you just have to, like Dr. Jayanti has mentioned, you just have to wait for the opportunity. Keep your eyes open, sign up for Job Street. You have, okay, a couple of basic rules. You must build up your CV. If your CV looks, learn how to make a proper CV. Yeah, please. Academic CV dengan resume ni lain. Okay, a couple of lingo you kena tahu. You have to know what's a cover letter. You have to know the difference between a resume and a CV. Kalau you punya CV, macam yang when I actually joined corporate, PMK was quite fair, but they didn't hantam me. My academic CV was 10 pages long with everything I did as an FMS. Nasib baik they accepted that. That's bad. please don't do that. Your resume must be about 4 to 5 pages and it must summarize the word that Dr. Jayanti said just now, your deliverables, meaning what you have delivered, cost containment or profit. Sorry, but corporate is like that. What developments have you done? Because at the end of the day, everything is about your output.
Hmm.
Prof. Shalima also mentioned this word, your output. That is why dia kena Prof kena tangkap gambar. Sebab kalau tak, nanti dia punya charity yang investor cakap, Prof, duit I, apa you buat? Mana rekod dia? Oh, it is talk is cheap. There's another saying in corporate, talk is cheap. So you have to show what you've
Yes.
done, you have to show your output. So
Hmm.
you have to know how to make a CV, you have to know how to make a corporate resume. Cover letter is very important. And you have to sign up with, you have to have a LinkedIn account. Okay, this one is a bit like do as I say, not do as I do, because saya sendiri pun tak ada LinkedIn account lagi, belum
Hmm.
lagi. But I have a pretty decent resume lah, which I
Ah,
just have to upload. But
okay.
LinkedIn is very important. Job Street is very important. And sign up with recruiters,
Hmm.
agencies like Hayes and all of this, because they can actually help you, lah, okay? And they can
Hmm.
actually give you also valuable input on how to actually pad up your CV. Now, the other thing is go for job interviews. Just gila-gila, just pergi lah, because your
Hmm.
interview skills are very important. There are some questions that you have to know how to answer, like, and I'm not
Hmm.
saying this is boring, but there are some loaded questions that is very, very important that you have to be able to answer properly. Like, well, what do you want? So
Hmm.
why do you want to shift from corporate? So why do you want to shift from clinical medicine to corporate? Some hard interviewers will actually ask, so what do you have to contribute? And
Hmm.
some of them, the interview session for Lehman Brothers last time and Sullivan Brothers, and
Hmm.
this is actually in investment banks. They will ask you, what's the GDP for the US? Tell me, if I had a loan like this, if I had a bond like this, what would you charge? That is a bit like maybe how some specialists, when you want to join the master's program, they will actually give you a clinical case. Okay, a patient, 54-year-old male, known case of diabetes, blah, blah, okay, came in, so what will you do? That is actually what is happening now in clinics. I was actually quite surprised because my friend, Dr. Arasu, this is Dr. Arasu, the Secretary of MMA, ya. Cara group dia interview doktor untuk klinik macam tu tau. Dia nak betul-betul doktor yang betul tahu clinical. So they will actually ask questions, not, well, where you work. Okay, you get a dengue patient coming in. Tell me how you manage the patient, or you get a patient with a fever. I think that's fair,
Hmm.
but it just shows you stuff like this. I was never asked when I joined ASP or when I joined
Hmm.
DBH as a practicing doctor. I was never asked any of this.
Itulah.
They were asking all these other questions. So times are changing. But
Definitely
going
kan.
back to your
Definitely.
question, how do you want to actually how do you want to transition into the field? These are all
Hmm.
the preparations that you must make. Your CV, your resume, brush up your interview skills. Make sure, now the other thing, you have to know something about economics, which is what I
Hmm.
wanted to say just now. If you don't know what, laws of supply and demand, basic economic knowledge, basic economic theory, you must have. So if
Hmm.
you don't know what's a bond, if you don't know what's a security, if you don't know what's a financial instrument, I'm not asking you to calculate, but you have to know some things. And a good place to start, knowledge is free on the internet. There's a
Hmm.
very good website called Investopedia. Start with that. Okay, so sorry, it's a
Okay,
bit
so
long
banyak
question, but that's it.
So banyak tips tu banyak tips daripada Dr. Raj, especially ada risk dalam masuk dalam private ni macam tadi you have a potential risk dari segi yalah bila industri affected by economy crisis dia akan affect lah. Government mungkin selamat lagi kan sebab kita kerajaan. So that's another consideration jugalah. Plus all the skills yang kena ada. Talking about resume CV tadi, mungkin Dr. Jayanti, there's a question about development in your field. If you can help enlightening all this audience and us, macam mana you keep yourself updated? And ada ni jugalah ada speakers tu later if you got the chance to share juga how do you keep yourself right at the front of your own field and your specialties. Please, Dr. Jayanti.
Yeah, no, so thanks for the question. Um, I just wanted to add on to what Dr. Raj was saying, right? So all relevant, but please remember, your reputation carries you into the next job. And very often, I'm sure it happens in the public sector, it happens in the corporate sector a lot, right? What you do in this company, in this space, carries a lot. and people will talk about you if you're doing something good. So don't underestimate that. So it goes back again to what do you deliver? And that's what recruiters look at as well. So, that's one thing to keep in mind. But in terms of how do you keep up to date, right? So it depends on where you decide to go. If you decide to go into pharma is always about innovative medicine. So you need to be up to date in terms of what are the latest targeted therapies that are out there? What are the new things that people are developing? Which companies are in the forefront? What's happening? You understand today that a lot of therapies are gene therapies, right? They work like vaccines. You give one injection per year or lifetime, right? It's a very different world, different technology. So you have to just keep up to date to what's going on in the world of pharma. I'm sure it's the same in the world of insurance, and I'm sure, even with Mercy Malaysia and Humanitarian, you need to know what's happening in the world. You need to know what's going on out there. How do you organize things? How do you put things right? Be curious. Don't think like, okay, I'm just, I know what I know and that's enough. It's never going to be enough. So wherever you are getting into, whatever you are getting into, get interested, learn whatever is going out there. Today, in the world of pharma, a lot of our partners are AI startup companies. So you need to also understand what's happening in startup companies. Who's out there with the latest technology? A lot of partners we work with, like HelloDoc in Indonesia is a startup company. In many other countries, we work with startup companies because they have the technology of telehealth, the technology to get to patients in the best possible way, and they provide services that pure clinical medicine doesn't. So you need partners, and you need to understand who those partners are, what they're doing, what's out there for you to work with. Data, as we mentioned just now, is super critical today in this world. We call it currency. This is today's currency. You have data. The data will tell you how far you're going. The data will tell you what's wrong. It'll also tell you what you need to solve. So be comfortable with data. I know many people look at data and they get very scared. Oh my God, it's numbers. Oh, it's programming, it's coding. This is like scary work. But honestly, there's simple ways to do it. Understand Excel if you can. It's not a prerequisite to get into corporate world, but it will help you as you go along. The healthcare system will change, is changing already. Things that will make it change will be data and will be knowledge about everything else that plays a part in healthcare system. So if you want to play in the space of all the jobs that we're talking about, these are some of the critical things that you need to have to just keep up to date.
So make sure we get familiar with data. I think we can emphasize more lah, kan?
Okay. Yes.
Especially doesn't matter whether we are in business industries, even in clinical medicine, always about data, evidence-based.
Always.
Yes.
That's the big currency today.
Big currency now.
Yeah.
Especially I'm a bit biased lah because I'm also machine learning. So okay, so yeah, so a bit of my favor as well in the answer. Cuma I want to say I'm going to moderate to give chance all the speakers, but if you see any question you're interested to answer, feel free to answer and get to go. Okay, so I'm going to go by list sekarang ni for the next question. May I know what or how can I prepare as a medical student or houseman later to improve my CV? Again, like we have spoken about CV and resume, to increase my chance into these three fields: humanitarian, corporate, pharma, and hospital administration. Okay, anyone to get these questions? Try to see whether we can help our apa yang tanya soalan ni.
I'll just give you just a quick one, right? So I think Dr. Raj already gave a lot of really great pointers. To be honest with you, when I was looking at CVs, when I recruit people, if your CV is more than 2 pages long, you've lost me. Keep it to 2 pages. But in that 2 pages, put down very quickly what you've done, starting with your latest job and the earliest job at the bottom. With every job that you do, put a little bit about what did you achieve. Very quickly, just in point form. So then what happens when your CVs go into companies? Initially, it's your talent scout team that looks at it. They are not the experts who are hiring you. They just get a brief. This is what we have to look for. They just look for keywords in your CV. If your CV doesn't have some keywords, they don't even put you into the next phase of a recruitment. So your CV must contain, look at the job scope in whatever advertisement. If they say healthcare knowledge or healthcare experience, put down your job, your experience as a doctor, as a houseman, what did you achieve? If they say, do you have experience in running clinical trials? If you did, if you helped out in the research in your hospital, put it down. That becomes critical. If they say, did you do anything else? Look at whatever is in the advertisement in terms of job scope. Try and fit your CV to what they're asking. Because if they don't hit the keywords, you don't get pulled into the second line of interviews. Once you get into an interview, when you get to the person, speak positively about yourself, but don't go in one long story. Don't lose your interviewer. Get to the point. Tell them who you are, what you bring to the table, what you can do with the job. Impress people in the first 3 minutes. You impress them in the first 3 minutes, they will keep you for 1 hour and talk to you. You don't impress them in the first 3 or 5 minutes, your interview will be a very short interview.
Yeah, so that 3-5 minutes in 2 pages must be very interesting to read.
Yeah.
And yeah, key points there daripada student siapa yang tanya ni. Dr. Shalima, Dr. Rash, you may jump in to add more. What tips you want to give for this question?
I think somebody also asked about whether they should renew their APC. I think it's only 50 ringgit a year, right? So I think just do it, because sometimes you may need it. You don't know when you want to need it.
Yes.
Correct.
CV, CV, this one medical student, I guess any courses or seminars which are free, which you can attend, you attend it. Then you can put it in your CV.
Dr. Rash, you got anything else to add for the corporate?
Yeah, okay, definitely. Okay, as a medical student, right, your CV, nobody cares how well you did if you're a first class student, or if you're a gold medalist, maybe, but that is basically, I would be happy if I see somebody has got a gold medal because I know the guy can work hard. That's all, which is why corporate clients, especially in the US, they're very happy to hire soldiers, officers from the military, because they know these people can follow orders and work hard, and they know management skills lah. But so your academic results are not that great, not that important. What's more important, goes back to what Dr. Jayanti says about your reputation. If you want to build your CV as a medical student, couple of things that you should do. One is try to participate in a research trial. I know it's a lot of work because you go like, oh my God, I have to do research. Yeah, you have to do research. Volunteer as a RA, research assistant. Find somebody like Prof. Shalima, find somebody like Prof. whatever, learn about SPSS. Pernah dengar tak SPSS? I think you heard the word SPSS pun you vomit. Oh my God, SPSS. Do these things, because this is what will make your CV different. The other thing is volunteer, like Prof. Shalima said, volunteer with a charitable association. Go for things like Kinabalu International Climbathon,
So my
do the
student,
work for free. You will
so my
not be
student dengar
paid. Yeah,
Hmm.
do something, tapi do the work for free. The other thing which is very important is also what's important is when you volunteer as a research assistant for a professor or somebody who's established in their field, your reputation grows because this person can vouch for you, and that is actually what's very important if you want to get a seat in the master's program. It is not how intelligent you are or which university you're from. If that HOD sees your name on the application, apa nak budak ni? And tapi you have to get noticed in the right way. Nauzubillah min zalik, I'm using this word. Kalau besok you sebagai houseman, you buat round, you datang lambat semasa grand round, don't bother applying for that specialty because mamat tu, dia dah kenal nama you, memang busuk. He thinks you're lazy. You have screwed your chances. So this thing is like, this is the game that you have to play. Kalau you punya prof datang buat grand round, you make sure you know all the cases. You know how I last time as a houseman, I didn't used to cheat. I will write on a notepad all the details about the patient, keep it in my lab coat, and then when the MO team will go to the patient, before the patient, I just go and read the notes and then I put back. The professor asked the MO tak tahu tahu. Lepas tu dia pusing ke I tahu jawab. And then dia muka masam. Tapi look at this. And then how come the husband knows? And then he's sitting in the ward the whole day. But that one is a good experience lah. Tapi also there are a lot of bad experiences. That's why I'm telling you, don't show up late for grand rounds because your consultant will hate you. He'll think you're lazy. And by then already very susah lah. You've killed your chances. So that's another thing. Now, if you're talking about corporate, right, what I would say, this is actually the best thing to do. Apply for an intern post, either in a TPA or insurer, during the time that you finish your medical degree and waiting for a position as a houseman. You have maybe 1 year there. Dulu PM Care bilang
Mm-hmm.
je orang, and the salary, yeah, you're not earning big bucks. Maybe you're making about 1,009 or 2,000 or something like that. But if you're interested in going into a corporate setting, do that. And if you're serious about getting the job right, tell them that I will accept a reduced salary because I'm here to learn. I'm not here to get rich. And when you're doing your internship, make sure you work like a dog, show up on time, volunteer to do everything, impress your boss. I still remember interns in PM Care from 3 years ago. I can mention their names, Dr. Fatin, Dr. Salman. Ada yang tak berapa bagus yang saya tak nak mention their names lah. But these interns that are so good, Dr. Salman has done his MRCP Part 1 now, and Dr. Fatin, I think, wants to do his surgical program. So, the thing is, people that work well, that's the thing, like, that the people that work well, they are destined for good futures. Lah. But so this is what you need to do. If you want to make yourself different, these are the different things that you have to do, things which other people don't do. I know there are some people which are interning in clinics as well. I I'm not saying I'm not saying that's bad, but you have to understand how does it fit in to your grand plan. Like if let's say you intern in a clinic, you don't know if the clinic is still going to be around also in 5 years' time when you finish everything. So you want to do things which are bang for the buck. So, like if you want to intern wherever, try, but that makes a difference. Your actual work experience makes a difference. Like what Dr. Jayanti has said, your reputation, what you have done.
Yep.
That's what people actually ask. What have you done?
Yes.
So,
So that will be
and
the main thing lah.
yeah,
Dalam I think for the CV, soalan CV tadi tu, so Dr. Jayanti, Dr. Shalima and Dr. Raj unanimously sebut tentang impress them and make sure that you deliver something that speaks volume about your credential to deliver what makes them really, they have no excuse not to hire you. Okay? Try to make sure macam Dr. Ras sebut tadi and also Dr. Jayanti, Dr. Shalima tadi, a lot of tips tu. And I hope my student ada kat sini. So make sure nanti lepas kita nak habis exam pro nanti, bila dah habis, so you got your houseman, nak tunggu houseman tu, make sure apply job untuk dapatkan that working experience. Okay. Alright, and I got one more question for the last one. I think we'll go for all of three of you as well. From Akmal Harun, and thank you for being mentioning your name. We really appreciate question with names lah. Okay. Good morning, doctor. I am a final year medical student. Okay. And good morning, everyone. What do you think are the next big things or any specific niche in health related industries within the next 5 to 10 years for me to start to venture now? Oh, ni dah nampak 5-10 tahun apa nak kena buat pada sekarang. Ini mesti dah target lepas habis MO ni, dah habis houseman, apply apa ni. Okay. Alright, I open the floor to any of the three of you.
I think on the clinical side, I mean, for me, I'm answering on the clinical side. Three things are artificial intelligence, 3D printing, and virtual reality. Those are the big things.
AI, 3D printing, and
virtual reality. So 3D
VR.
printing,
Simulation.
for example, or computer assisted or robotic surgery, there would be the in thing at the currently, but of course you still need the human to run the computer assisted surgery or run the robotic surgery. And also with AI, AI can help you a bit, but it cannot give you the final diagnosis. You still need the clinical judgment there. But
Mm.
these are things which will help and make life so-called easier for clinicians to work in the
Mm.
hospital setting.
Interesting. So definitely. So I feel like at least I know I'm in the right track lah for my career on. So I want my machine learning. Okay, good. And Dr. Raj and Dr. Jayanti as well. Please, if you have anything to contribute with to that question.
So from me, I would just add on, I think what Prof. Shalima said is absolutely right. Just consider though, there are already in many countries in the world virtual clinics, virtual hospitals. So don't have this impression that how we work today in the healthcare system is going to be exactly the way we work in 10 years' time. The world is already changing. In many places, consultants are providing surgical feedback holographically. They're not even there. It's all done virtually. So in many hospitals now, they're doing that depending on the environment on the ground, on things like that. So this is a very different world from what any of us are used to. But so be prepared. Be prepared. It's already happening, and it will come more and more. So AI, yes, as you said, virtual reality, fantastic, because yes, virtual hospitals will become more and more a reality. Also, more and more, it is not so much about the patients having to come to hospitals. It will be about us going to the patients in some form or the other, right? And to consider how that's going to happen in the future. And we're thinking even less than 5 years' time, 10 years' time, right? There are already considerable conversations going on in terms of that, since you're talking futuristic. For now, get all the hands-on experience, get all the experience you have today treating patients as you do now, while you keep track and while you keep learning about what's going on in the world today. In many places, there are already experiments across many hospitals where patients will wear 24-hour devices. These devices will record your BP, pulse, temperature, heart rate, everything about you that feeds back into artificial platforms. And these platforms will predict that you are going to have a heart attack in the next 2 minutes or 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And before you leave your house, you get a knock on the door and a paramedic will come to your door and say, please sit down. You are going to have a heart attack. I'm here to see to you. This is already being tested out. So probably in 10 years' time, this might be the next form. So I just want to encourage you to think things will change. But how we look at it today and how we look at it in a few years' time will change. Be prepared for that. Learn everything that's going on now. Learn everything that is happening in the world. Value-based healthcare is a fantastic thing to get into if you're not getting into. And data, as we said, like it's data technology. This is going to make a difference. Yeah.
Very, very. Thank you. Terima kasih, Dr. Jayanti.
Right.
And Dr. Raj?
Okay, very, very good question. I think everybody has covered the definite points. I'm just gonna get into the nitty-gritty of things. One of the things that you guys definitely need is to improve your reading speed. Like, goes back to what I said earlier on, the essential skill that separates successful people from not successful people is information. So if you, and I'm not joking, once again, I'm gonna hold up my book because buy books, like triple your reading speed or something, because if your reading speed, you'll be surprised, a lot of people, their reading speed is 125 words per minute. You don't have to go up to 2000, but with training, I've actually got mine up to about 350. This is not studying, this is actually like basically meaningful reading, so you can read through materials at a decent rate. I'm trying to bring up my reading speed to about 600 words per minute, but this is something that you actually have to do, like, and Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, all these people, Bill Gates reads 20 books or 17 books every week or something like that. Now, the other thing, because you're talking about upskilling, right? Motivational books, Tony Robbins and all that, positive thinking, yeah, that's all fine and good. But what I find works better is you read biographies of people that have done well and you try and see what they can do if it's adaptable to your life. Like today, you're fortunate, you're listening to three guys, two very established people, and one guy who just by accident has arrived here. Maybe if you follow what we do, you can actually go ahead in your life. But I'm telling you, you have to read, you have to work hard, learn. These are all the central things. Every day you have to read. You have to study every day. If you want to be successful in a corporate life, guess what? Every day you are studying. You are a lifelong learner. Probably you're reading every day about 3 to 4 hours. If you cannot accept it, probably not going to do well in this field. I need to manage expectations first. We work very, very hard. The second thing, I completely agree with AI. Now, telemedicine, teleconferencing, 3D printing, agreed, 100%. This is all the way of the future. Um, I don't expect you all to become AI specialists because that's actually another degree in itself. You actually have to go into computer science. But what you guys can do is go into data analytics. The basic and big data analytics. Big data analytics is basically when you're analyzing data from 500,000 people. So for big data, Excel doesn't work. You had to use this other software called Python, which is crazy. Now, when I joined Etika, I didn't know anything about Excel. I didn't even know how to manage a cell. I need to confess. You know how I learned? YouTube. I watched like maybe 100 hours worth of YouTube videos in 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks because I cannot ask people, can you do this for me? Because they'll go like, gaji you berapa? Lepas tu benda basic macam ni pun you tak tahu ke? Berambus lah. What you have to do, but that's the beauty about the internet, democratization of knowledge. Everything is free.
Mm,
It's up to
mm,
you to find it. And now I can do analysis of data on Excel and actually plot frequency distribution histogram of medical charges, which is actually my innovation, which I did here, lah,
mm,
like so you guys have to learn analytics. I would say if you can sign up for go into YouTube, make sure you always go up to the stage where you can actually crunch data in Excel. Like you can actually manage and you can actually go into like proper data analytics. And this is not just using Excel just to make a table, it's actually
Mm.
for using the formulas for data analysis in Excel. It's not just your pivot table and VLOOKUP. A lot of people think they're Excel expert just because they know pivot table and VLOOKUP. I know Excel. That is not Excel. It is much, much deeper than that. And if you are really inclined, go into Python because that is
mm,
something that actually does make a difference. If you have if
mm,
you have if you have Python on your CV, but understand this, if you have Python on your CV and you mention it, if I am your interviewer, I will ask you, tell me what you've done with Python, or tell me how will you do something with Python.
Mm.
So if you want to put down something on your CV, make sure that you've actually done it, lah.
yeah.
And the other thing, make sure that, okay, telemedicine is coming up. I completely agree, but I need to manage expectations here. There is a problem with telemedicine in Malaysia is not everybody is behind it, not every clinician is behind it, because the reputation that telemedicine has is
Mm,
loss of income. Because the GPs especially, they feel doktor yang tak bertauliah pergi tengok patient, tarik, stealing my business from my clinic. And oh, senang-senang saja tengok patient ada sakit perut. Oh, daripada kamera. Tapi kalau patient tu ada appendix, mampuslah patient tu. Nanti kena saman. The
mm,
problem with telemedicine in Malaysia right now is if there is a negative clinical outcome associated with the telemedicine consult from the outset already, that medical consultation is deemed deficient. So
mm,
automatically something you actually will say that you check the patient chincai. We don't have a regulation in Malaysia right now that supports telemedicine and protects telemedicine in the sense that, okay, yeah, the patient came to me, patient said he had stomach pain, but I asked all the relevant questions. Any peritonism, any fever, any diarrhea, and I established a risk
mm,
profile. I even did an Avogadro score for what I did. So within the confines, within the limitations of the technology, I have done a very good consult. Abroad, they say it's okay. You are not to blame because within the limitations of the technology, you have done the best that you can. But in this country right now, it's still gray area. So telemedicine in Malaysia right now is still black and white, which is why we need people like you to very strongly help push the legislation so doctors who do telemedicine are protected. One other thing about telemedicine, I just want to add, I know some of you might be doing it or thinking about doing it. Try to not do it for a foreign patient. patient kat Singapura ke, patient kat UK ke, or anything, sometimes you might have an opportunity to do that. If you do that, if anything happens to the patient, you will be charged according to that country's punya whatever, so
Nah.
that is something
Hmm.
that you have to be quite careful about. So
Yeah.
the other point which I'm trying to tell, all of this goes down to make sure that you know the legal basis behind it.
Definitely.
So, but that's the thing, lah. It's
Yeah.
improve your reading, make sure, but the big trend I agree is AI, lah. Definitely it's AI. If you can
Yeah.
honestly hinge yourself on AI and actually have AI related projects, if you can actually run a successful AI related project that has actually translated itself into tangible benefit, misalnya AI related project, sama ada jimat duit ataupun buat duit, oh memang you goreng pisang panas lah. Seriously.
Lah. So that will be the next 5-10 years tu. Okay.
Yeah.
So those
Yep.
yang answer question tu, yang tanya soalan. So the big data, machine learning, AI, dan yang Prof Salimah sebut juga tadi ialah VR, 3D printing, dan juga berkait dengan apa nama satu lagi tadi tu, 3D printing, AI, dan juga dengan VR kan, virtual reality. Jadi ini adalah satu something trending to the future lah. Probably saya je nak tambah sikit je kebetulan bidang saya. We have a situation study, kita nak predict intern ataupun houseman yang akan fail tau, clinical posting masa houseman. So kita buat study dan kita dapati daripada 545, 30 orang yang dah fail satu posting lah. Bila kita nak buat statistical modelling, kita tak boleh. Sebab pertamanya data dia sikit. 30 daripada 500 dia pakai imbalance data set. So bila kita buat multiple logistic regression, model kata semua lulus. Bila dia buat semua lulus, dia punya accuracy 99% tau. Sebab persen yang sikit tu fail tu sikit sangat. So dia kata this doesn't make sense. This is stupid model. Sebab semua orang lulus. So we actually turned up using machine learning and we train machine learning to recognize yang the most important is the one yang fail tu. Supaya dia boleh assign work greater weight. And then alhamdulillah we managed to get a very good prediction yang balance di antara those yang fail dengan predict siapa yang jadi these are the kind of things yang kita tak boleh buat dengan traditional statistik, tapi kita boleh buat dengan machine learning dan AI. So the kind of yang future lah untuk kita, ini berkait dengan houseman education lah, tapi of course dia akan apply financial, clinical, all of this. Maksudnya the ability to produce modeling with high accuracy, that can accommodate higher complex more data. This is something yang in future lah, bila data become more macam our panel was saying, it becoming currency, dia akan everywhere. So the ability to harness and harvest this currency into something meaningful lah will be the future, insyaAllah. Either for clinical, financial, or admin. Okay, just something yang kebetulan, sorry lah, saya semangat pula, bagi saya sikit kan. Anyway, because of that, I would like to thank you all our three very, very distinguished, esteemed and respected panels. Prof. Dr. Sharima, our hand surgeon and also a very strong advocate of humanitarian. Dr. Rajbinder, a qualified family medicine specialist, occupational health, and a very, very strong figure in corporate, in insurance, in Etika.
Okay, that's not true. That is inflation already. Seriously, aku bukan CEO mana-mana lah. Janganlah kau tambah sampai macam tu.
Tak apa. We want to emphasize what you have done. Even though you are mentioning it's just luck, it's really something, as you mentioned, it's not just pure luck. It's actually preparedness, and as you mentioned, bertumbuh dengan opportunity. And also Dr. Jayanti, thank you very much. She's a very, very, I'm myself very inspired. Emphasize a lot on teamwork, and make sure you understand what motivates you. Make sure you do something that really passionate what you want to do rather than what your friends want to do. And also I think a lot of good tips and practical that even me and not just as a professional but also as a person, we can benefit from all our three speakers sharing. Okay. With that, I would like to thank you, our speakers, and also all our young doctors and medical students for joining us. We do hope that this session will be proof meaningful and insightful to all of you in your future. We hope you all the best. And please, if you have anything to ask, you can always reach one of us and ask any question. Hopefully, we can still benefit you in such a way. Thank you very much, Dr. Shalima, Dr. Raj, and also Dr. Jayanti for joining us today. I think that should be it for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks, Dr. Salami, for the opportunity.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks,
Thank
Salami.
you. Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.